If we could collect all the older adults in the world, we will have the third most populous nation behind China and India. The population is growing older, and one of our duties is to ensure them a successful aging. Aging is associated with a gradual decline in many tissues and function. Loss of muscle mass is particularly concerning given its important role in physiological processes, including movement, metabolism, infection, and independence. Normal muscle mass decline can be exacerbated by critical events such as illness, surgery, and extended bed rest, like the recent COVID pandemic we just faced. If not properly counteracted, this situation can lead to an accelerated loss of muscle mass and function, describing the so-called catabolic crisis model. This model highlights how older adults seem to be unable to completely recover from events that cause muscle loss, leading them to unanticipated disabilities. In order to solve this problem, it's necessary to understand the mechanism underlying muscle protein turnover. Skeletal muscle mass is indeed regulated by the fine balance between muscle protein synthesis and muscle protein breakdown. Muscle protein synthesis is important to synthesize a new protein, whilst muscle protein breakdown is essential to discharge old and damaged protein. Alteration in protein balance occur throughout the day depending on environmental influences, such as the amount and the composition of the meal or physical activity, which mainly affect the synthetic component of the equation. When muscle protein synthesis is greater than muscle protein breakdown, we will have muscle accrual. On the other side, when the breakdown is greater than the synthesis, we will have muscle decline. At first, the reduction in muscle mass in older adults was explained by a state of persistently elevated muscle protein breakdown. However, Volpe colleague and other researchers showed that the muscle protein turnover at baseline was not different between older and younger adults. As such, the only explanation left to justify the loss of skeletal muscle mass during aging was inappropriate response to the daily anabolic stimuli, such as nutrition or exercise. Indeed, if we compare the response to a meal ingestion or a combination with exercise and nutrition, the response of older adults will always be a little bit lower compared to the younger counterparts. Here comes the definition of anabolic resistance, which is a blunted anabolic response to otherwise anabolic stimuli. So, let's now examine specifically the anabolic resistance to amino acid. First of all, when we eat our meal, the amino acid needs to be ingested and then absorbed and released in the bloodstream. Here, through the circulatory system, they can reach the tissue, which is in our case the muscle. Amino acid can enter the cell thanks to specific transporters, and once they are inside, they can stimulate muscle protein synthesis, directly activate the mTORC1 complex. So you understand that any of these steps can be defective and causing anabolic resistance. Several studies demonstrated that a dose-response relationship exists between the quantity of protein ingested and the muscle protein synthetic response. These relationships hold true until a certain point, here indicated by this plateau, which indicates the maximal capacity of our muscle to synthesize new proteins. As you can appreciate, the plateau is reached earlier in young adults, approximately around 0.24 grams of protein per kilograms of body weight, compared to the older adults, in which this plateau is set around 0.4 grams of protein per kilograms of body weight, meaning that older adults need nearly twice the relative isolated protein dose to maximally stimulate muscle protein synthesis. But also quality is an important component of the anabolic response to amino acid. Indeed, in this old study by Katsanos, it clearly shows how older adults are sensitive to the amount of leucine in the meal, showing that a minimal amount of leucine is necessary in order to stimulate muscle protein synthesis, whilst young adults seem less constrained in their response. Another important contributor seems to be endothelial function. Amino acid needs indeed to cross the endothelial wall in order to enter the cells. A proper nutrient delivery is given by the product of blood flow and amino acid concentration. In this study, we can appreciate that given different doses of essential amino acid, older adults seem to accumulate greater concentration of amino acid in the blood. However, this was not associated to a greater concentration inside the muscle, suggesting some sort of delay in the amino acid perfusion in the cell. Timmerman and colleague further investigated the interaction between perfusion, or endothelial function, and protein kinetic by directly controlling for blood flow. They did it by inhibiting pharmacologically the insulin-induced vasodilation. As shown in their work, when the vasodilation was inhibited, also blood flow and protein synthesis was blocked. suggesting a crucial role of endothelial function in the anabolic response. On the contrary, when exercise was performed before ingesting a mixture of amino acid and sugar, blood flow was stimulated and muscle protein synthesis response was enhanced. Based on these results, we ask ourselves if regular exercise could restore the anabolic response to amino acid. To answer this question, we used the essential amino acid mixture that was found unable to stimulate muscle protein synthesis by Katsanos in 2006 and give it to a group of older adults before starting a 3-month training program. We train our subject 3 times per week with a resistance exercise training and test them again at the end. Well, so disappointing, because our subjects were perfectly able to respond to a low dose of essential amino acid even before starting the intervention. Looking back at the 2 study characteristics, we found that our subjects were healthier than Katsanos volunteers, and moreover, the analysis of their food diary highlighted that they already reached the minimal suggested amount of protein intake with their diet. These results can tell us that healthy lifestyles can be crucial to maintain an appropriate anabolic response in older adults. So no effect of training was found in the anabolic response to essential amino acid. However, we observed an increase in the basal protein synthetic rate, which is important to highlight because older adults have a blunt response to exercise as well. Several studies have demonstrated that at any given intensity of exercise, older adults show a reduced activation muscle protein synthesis compared to young adults. These age-related differences may contribute to the blunted hypertrophic response seen after resistance exercise training in older adults. But again, also in this case, the endothelial function seems to play an important role. In this study, we divided the subject based on their muscular capillarization at baseline. We observed that participants with inadequate capillary indices respond to 3 months of training increasing their muscle mass, whilst the group with a lower capillarization used the training to increase the number of their capillaries. The intriguing results was also that our rate of capillarization seems to be linked to our level of physical activity. So please, stay active throughout your day. This will help you to be a better responder later in life. However, nothing is lost. Older adults that are not responding to exercise in the first week of training became responder if they are doubling the time of training. For some others, this is not enough, and they may need to increase the volume of exercise, as shown in this work of Kumar. Here, the investigators studied the muscle protein synthesis response to 3 or 6 sets of different intensity of exercise. While young adults seem not to be influenced by the training volume, older adults have a greater anabolic response to the 6th set. We can conclude that anabolic resistance is a blunted or maybe delayed anabolic response to otherwise anabolic stimuli, such as exercise, nutrition, but also insulin. Anabolic resistance in older adults can be overcome increasing the amount of stimuli, so greater protein intake, better quality of protein, greater volume of exercise. Endothelial dysfunction can play a crucial role in the anabolic resistance in older adults, which needs further investigation. So please, stay active,